Hello everybody and welcome to Reed's Reads, Spider-Man Crawl Space Edition. Check us out at thespidermancrawlspace.com. Well everybody, I'm here for a nice little review, of course, of Amazing Spider-Man 27, better known as 921 in legacy number, the aftermath of the death of Miss Marvel. So, with Zeb Wells pulling up everything for the aftermath of this issue, and then we have Fallen Friend miniseries going on, and then McGinnis returning as artist for this story arc, how was it compared to the last other couple issues that were kind of a disaster? Well, I'll get into the pros right off the bat. The one thing is I really did like about this issue is actually the complete focus on Norman Osborn's guilt. Him talking about a lot about what happened with Kamala and everything he's done as the Green Goblin, having his sins removed, everything that's been happening to him, not only in that miniseries, but also what's been going on with him revisiting who he was as a person in the Red Goblin series. And there's actually a pretty good relationship between Peter and Norman. This is one of the few times where I do really feel like there is a sense that Peter really is trying to give Norman this chance. He's been kind of proven several times. I mean, at this point in time, you kind of want to do that. Also, the talk between the secretary, as well as, you know, the death of the Queen Goblin that happened in his own miniseries, and the guilt he felt about this and everything that's been working with Norman has actually worked pretty well. This is probably one of the most strongest plots that's been going on since post Nick Spencer, about having the sins removed from Norman Osborn, the guilt and everything, and then his adventures as the Gold Goblin, as well as some other things with the storyline. So that's actually probably one of the best pieces. I also have to go into some very interesting points of the technology with Dr. Octopus's new harness. Believe it or not, I really kind of like this upgrade. Doc Ock has had upgrades on his tentacles for several decades, from the days of Stan Lee to Roger Stern and more, from appendages to even an adamantium version and so forth. And I like how he kind of explains why he creates this new harness, how it's based off the nano fluid created by Osborn, as well as his own technology, and how it's able to break off into these separate probes, which actually makes it pretty creepy and actually pretty a thing of not only current technology, but also why the fact that he feels he'll be betrayed by the harness that he needs to upgrade, and exactly why he had Craven do the pieces to get the last couple parts of Spider-Man's spider bombs so he could get some more of the fluid technology. It's actually pretty cool done with the storyline, but that's kind of where we're going to end with the pros here. Going into the cons, number one, the main storyline here, which is Dr. Octopus's technical harness, which apparently has been playing Mama Bear, Berenstein Bear, apparently in the background for the last 20 issues. This is the first time it's been brought up in forever. It feels like it's completely like, oh, remember that story I had with the harness kind of technically in love with Peter, which may or may not be a result of what happened during Superior Spider-Man and everything else? Well, here's that story. It's tucking him in that bed. It's making sure he's okay. It feels like the subplot comes out completely out of nowhere. If anybody's a new reader, they have no idea. I mean, even with the explanation from Otto, really kind of doesn't make much sense. Also, the fact that it's really kind of out of place. First of all, Otto comes off as like the abusive ex who, of course, beats and tortures the harness for, how dare you think you can, like, one of my greatest enemies, and checking in on it and sneaking out at night. You don't think I was checking? Well, no, Otto, we didn't even know it was leaving your secret base for anything. It's like, huh? What? Also, a couple other things also, too, is the story doesn't make sense, especially when Jameson is yelling with Nora Winters on the phone about the picture of him from issue 900 back 20 issues ago, of, Jonah looking like an idiot being plugged up by the harness, and what the story was too. Well, according to the weird timeline that's been going on ever since that storyline, to Dark Web, to right now, right here with What Did Paul Do? It basically happened a couple of months ago, and now it's being printed in Threats and Menaces and a few other things. The timelines don't make sense. And speaking of the timelines, you can definitely tell this is not going to end well between Peter and Felicia. Her hiring the Shocker unknowingly to have Peter feel better since he's feeling so depressed and guilt over the death of Kamala Khan, that I can believe Felicia doing. But the fact that the whole storyline with it and how Peter reacts to it just doesn't work. It shows that Peter's really not really happy about Felicia with this. He could care less, and that their relationship really isn't going to be working out very well. So that's kind of thrown out there too. And also, of course, few other things with the storyline, especially with Dr. Octopus's little story about basically using the part of the thing to not only get his new harness, but to head over to do the next part of his plan with Oscorp, but also the feast with the Queen Goblin come back. While it has a great design and everything, it falls on horrible cliche horror movies where, like, we secretly kept the body because we can't let it go for science and maybe a weapon and maybe we're evil. Oh no, it's still alive! She's killing us! Okay, mean, I think the design is great and what they did with the storylines, but basically it's trying to take the piece, of course, that happened way back, in Peter Parker 75 when they explained how that Norman Osborn, because of the Goblin formula, brought him back to life, even though he was pierced in the heart, and also took him with his stories. Because, yes, the fact that she just had her neck broken and the results of what happened in the end of the Golden Goblin series do make sense. As they've kind of said, those who are still alive with the Goblin form, as showed also in Red Goblin with Phil Urich, as well as talks about what happened in Hobgoblins. Like, there's more enhanced healing, but you can't separate if the body's been completely destroyed or, head has been taken off. So her just having a broken neck is along the lines of the opponent of, I broke my finger. Wrap it up for a couple days, and life is good. The storyline's really just trying to do so much. And then the artwork, oh man, I mean, 1 minute it looks great, like the battle scenes between Felicia and Peter and the Shocker. Dr. Octopus looks like he's about 2 steps away from having a severe heart attack or a stroke. And a couple of times he looks like the Mole Man with the new fluid harness on his back. I mean, Ed has always had an exaggerated artist, but to a point where it fits the storyline. And Otto looks like he's hit the buffet at the Golden Corral every hour on the hour, and now he's kind of walking around with his harnesses. It looks really bad, and it's kind of an insult. If they're kind of going for like a exaggeration kind of fat joke, this is really insulting, but we should know that. For the last couple issues, we've been extremely exalting with Phrygian and a few other things been going on in the storyline. So it really could be a good story, but when it's all said and done, it's picking up plots that are over 20 issues away from, and also pieces that don't really make sense. Believe it or not, Peter and Norman have a better loving relationship in a platonic sense than any of the other characters in this story. And even with the cliffhanger with the tentacle still alive trying to warn Spider-Man that Otto's coming, kind of makes it another cliche where the fact is, even though his new one kind of destroyed the harness and left it for dead, it was somehow alive and still escaped in its pieces to go warn Jonah, like in Amazing Spider-Man 900. So yeah, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. So I'm actually going to wrap it up with a grade D this time. I did enjoy it, some parts for the most part, but really when Peter and Norman are the best parts of the storyline, and the artwork is even making you kind of go like, okay, it's a little cringy. You don't have much of a story, especially when you got story arcs that haven't been talked about. I'm looking forward to the Green Goblin coming back and more with Norman's situation and everything, but as of right now, it's like, oh boy, this is going to be very interesting with the star-crust lover of the harness and depressed Peter, because he's depressed. Well, on that note, guys, I do want to say a big shout out to the honor and memory of John Romita Sr. If you've not read, he, as of the recording of this episode, he did pass away, the longtime Spider-Man artist who took up, of course, the pencil and pens there from Steve Ditko, and of course, major things such as the designs for Daredevil's costumes, tons of books from anywhere from both, of course, Spider-Man to Daredevil to Avengers and many more. I'm actually wearing one of my shirts, actually has a lot of John Romita Sr. work on here. And then after this episode post, I will be doing a little tribute to him over work and stuff that he had done over the years. I luckily was able to meet him many years ago, but unfortunately I do not have the copy of the issue that he, of course, signed for me anymore, unfortunately. But I will miss you, John. You were a fantastic artist. You made me actually want to get into Daredevil. You really were the artist that really established me with Spider-Man, since a lot of his early work is what led to the 80s series designs for Spider-Man and later on too. But he was a legend and he will be greatly missed. So John, thank you so much for everything you did for Spider-Man and more. And on that little sad note, everybody, if you want to know more information, please come check us out at the SpidermanCrawlspace.com for all our latest news, previews, feedback, and more. And definitely check out our various podcasts and video pieces here on our YouTube channel and our discussions on Discord. And on that note, everybody, I'll see everybody in a couple weeks on the Crawl Space.